Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right. Miss Liz is in the house. And as you probably noticed this afternoon, there was no tea time. We had a little glitch in time zones and a little mishap. So we're going to have that tea time with Nancy Langdrum tomorrow at 3 p.m. That's right. Miss Liz rescheduled. That's how quick I work on things. Sometimes life happens and sometimes we have some misunderstandings. So Nancy will be in the house tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Miss Liz is trying to get in the rescheduled tea times as quick as I can, so we can get you seeing all these incredible guests right away. So they're not delayed and postponed to further dates, so we can keep them still in the same month that they were scheduled to be in. So tonight you can see that Miss Liz is by herself. Well, I promised you guys that I would share my story on how I started my writing journey. So we're going to be sharing that tonight in the house, and we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's website and check it out. I'm going to put in both websites, and then you can check out both websites. So we'll get those into the chat for you guys. But before we get started, we're going to do the good old stuff. We're going to do disclaimers and all that good stuff. And then we're going to get into Miss Liz's writing journey and how it started and how old I was and all those good juicy things. Just getting this in here. We're going to get that onto the screen for you guys so that you can see. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith and health. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their good own judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to the discussion. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Times. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary, and Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup of tea at a time. And tonight, you get to hear my story. So you get to hear how it all started. So we're going to get right in, and we're going to start sharing a little bit with you. And I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you on the journey of how the tea started and how writing saved my life. I was asked this by a guest I had on this week, what saved me. And it got me thinking that I've never really shared my story with my listeners, with my viewers, and with my supporters. So I think it's time to share it. Some of you know that I've written in books. Some of you know that I have my own books, but some of you don't. Um, so let's take you down the first rabbit hole. Well, the first rabbit hole started when I was about 9 years old, that I can remember. I was in my first foster home. My parents were going through a really messy divorce, and we were put into care, so they could figure that out. Um, and I was given a journal and a pen, and that foster home told me to express myself. They knew that I had some things that I was dealing with that the family hadn't dealt with at that time. So the journal was what started the writing. Um, I used it to scribble, to color, to put dots on it. I'm a big time traveler, as many of you have heard on past episodes. Miss Liz talks about the time travel. And that's where the T comes in. It's the time travel, right? The past, the present, and the future. We all have one. We all have a story, and we all make a difference, right? Um, some of us are doctors, some of us are lawyers, some of us are teachers, some of us are students. You know, we all have a story. We all have a way of bringing life to another person. As for myself, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter, and I'm a change maker. I want to change the world with tea. And that's where my writing journey really started to take me, was my tea. Being true and authentic to myself, really sharing and opening up about my story. My story is a heavy one, but I like to throw in some dark humor, kind of lighten it up and all that good stuff. So you'll hear Miss Liz ramble, and I do that when I share my story because the anxiety is there, the triggers are there, the trauma is there, and I want to be real and raw with all of you guys. I promised you guys that I would be more connected to all of my listeners. Uh, and the golden heart is me being authentic and real with all of you guys. So at the age of 9, I started writing. I started writing poetry, and I wrote poetry for many years, and I still write poetry. Um, I'm more of a keynote kind of writer where I um, put little mini stories together and then turn them into poetry or turn them into short stories or articles and stuff like that. Things that are passionate about me. That is where my writing comes in. Um, when I was 9, I shared my first poem with my foster mom, Mrs. Ackles, who has passed away now. And she encouraged me to continue writing. From there, it went from school teachers like Madame McDonald, who is in my book that I'll be talking about tonight. She wrote the foreword. She was my grade 7 French teacher. She gave me a writing award because I wrote a poem in French in grade school. These are things that I hold dear to my heart, and I keep my writing really private but public, if that makes any sense. Some stuff I will keep to myself and only release years later, months later, days later. Um, and a lot of my writing, I don't show it to anyone. And that's okay because that's what a real writer does, right? Is we have our private journals for ourselves that we can reflect back on. And maybe one day those stories will be out there, and maybe they never will be. That's part of writing, right? That's part of healing. So from there, it went on to high school, writing more poetry, getting more awards for writing, stuff like that. Um, and then my writing journey started in 2017, the public journey, um, when I met an incredible woman named Brenda Hammond, who wrote the Sacred Hearts Rising series, who gave me a chance to share my story. And I got to enjoy sharing my story with 63 other different authors within that 4-year journey with Brenda Hammond, as I wrote in 4 books of hers. Um, and then it went on to meeting incredible people like Charlotte Howard, who I wrote with The Unstoppable Gems, Carol Azam, where I wrote with Triumph and Fear, 50 women from across the world. Then it went to Constance Woolard, who was a tea time guest. Charlie was also a tea time guest as well in season 1. Constance was a tea time guest, I believe, in season 3 and in season 4. You can check out those tea times as well. And I wrote Invisible Soul. And my last book that I've written and that's been published is a testimony of domestic violence. I shared my testimony in the Ruby Girl Journal. Um, as many of you know, I am a survivor of domestic violence. So I shared my testimony, and that's to give other women hope to share their stories as well. Now I'm working on a poetry book because I believe that it's time to get the poetry out there. Um, and I'm working also on a children's book that I'd like to dedicate to my granddaughter, Raylan. Um, so she's going to be in the book. We're still working on characters and stuff like that and the storyline and the magic teapot of Miss Liz. And Raylan's going to take you guys all on a journey. So my granddaughter's going to be kind of telling the story. She's going to be the little narrator in the story. Um, and I'm hoping to have that out by the end of this year and beginning of next year. There's a lot of work that goes in behind putting a book together, writing a book. Um, it took me 9 months to write my tea collection. And that was just more of I could do it. I wanted to show myself I could write my own book, that I could publish my own book. Um, it is a different book. It's an Alice in Wonderland kind of all over the place, loopies in the rabbit holes, out of the rabbit holes, exercises, fun facts, recipes. It's a mix of everything, right? Kind of gives you an idea of what goes on in Miss Liz's head. My mind sometimes it's a real bag of bones, right? Bag of rabbits in there, and sometimes I don't want anybody to know what rabbits are in there because I do live with mental illness as well. Um, so yeah, my writing journey took me on an incredible journey. So tonight, what I want to do is I want to share a little bit of these books. Many of these books are available on Amazon, and you can reach and uh, you can buy them there. They are also in Barnes and Noble, all the bookstores across the globe, stuff like that. Um, there's also local bookshops that are in your area. You can go in and request to have those books brought into your shops, into your communities as well. With my story, I wanted to share so that if anybody wanted me to speak or share, to give hope and to show that yes, you can do it. You don't need $1 million to write a book, but you do need to invest. You do need to invest in yourself. Um, yes, you are working with publishers and editors and stuff like that, but you are number one is working with yourself, being true to yourself and allowing yourself to get your story out there. So tonight I want to share a couple of the books. I have them here. I have also my poetry book, um, and I wanted to share a little bit more on the poetry because poetry is not something that I've really shared with my audience or with my family members or stuff like that because my poetry at a time was very dark. It was very heavy. I do suffer with DID, dissociation disorder, due to trauma. So I do pull away. I do alter. I haven't altered since 2009. I did have 9 different voices um, that I haven't spoken about because I try not to go into that area because I'm scared. Then I might alter again. So I try to avoid it. If you want to know more about that story, um, maybe in the future I'll share more on that because it was a place of darkness, a place of confusion, a place of exhaustion. I never really knew what to expect or when it would happen or who would show up or all that good stuff. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the future. But tonight I wanted to share the writing journey. The writing journey started with just dots on the paper, then words, and then the words turn to lines, and then the lines turn to paragraphs, and then the paragraphs turn to published work. That's where my writing journey started. So tonight I'm going to share some of my poetry, and I'm going to share why I needed to get my story out and why tea time is the way it is and why I get guests on that I get. I get guests on from all genres and all walks of life. Whether they have a horror book or they're an organization or they're an orphanage. I get the stories on that I feel that need to be heard. As a little girl, I wanted to be heard. And when I was writing, I wanted to be heard. And the paper and the ink heard me. And now people hear me through tea time. And they hear my journey through my guests and through the work that I do with different communities and countries and stuff like that as well. Um, it all started with this little girl. This little girl's me. This little girl is why I do what I do. I was 4 when I was molested and raped by my uncle. She's the one that tells the story, guys. She's the inner child, the little one that brings out the difference. She's the one that gives me my power each and every day. So the story started with her. The story started with me, because that little girl is me. I then started writing poetry. And the way that I used to write poetry, and I still do sometimes today, is I'll look at a picture and the image, and it kind of makes me go down like a rabbit hole. And through that rabbit hole, I see words floating around, ready to tell a story. And I love these flowers called Sweet Nothing. And that used to be my AKA screen name for poetry, Sweet Nothings poems. And you can still find that on Facebook and all that stuff. And I keep it simple, guys. I keep it real. I keep it, it's me. And there's 3 stones because I have 3 living children. And the flowers represent my baby who passed. I try to bring everything in. As you can see, my poetry, there's a story and there's a picture. And it tells you a little bit of the journey that I can take you on while you're reading the poem. You know, when you used to read newspapers and stuff like that, and there was a picture, and you'd be like, oh, I wonder what the story was behind that. I wonder what they did there. That's what I do. I really like looking at pictures and seeing things. I've also done some collaboration with family, and I write about family because I don't have family. I'm trying to find a poem that I wrote with my godson, my nephew. He wanted to write with his auntie, so I'm just going to look at that one. I'm not sure if it's in this book. It might be in my other books. Let me find it. And if you have any questions or anything, you can put them in the comments, or you can DM me. If you'd like to reach out and you'd just like to talk and have tea, we can do that as well. It's not in this book. But I'm going to read one of my poems here. And in the picture, you can see a rose through the hand. The blood is pain. And this poem is called Babies Are in Pain. My babies are in pain. They cry tears like pouring rain. One takes a drink of Listerine. The other sniffs of sugar to stay awake. What's happening to my babies? My babies are in pain. I want to hold them near and ask them why they hurt themselves like so. My babies are in pain, and I don't know if this will stain their ways. I just want it all to go away. Free my babies from all their pain. My babies are full of pain. Written by Miss Liz. Elizabeth Gagnon, aka Sweet Nothing. I wrote that poem because my kids were put into foster care because of domestic violence, and they were hurting, and they were doing things to themselves because they didn't feel heard. And I didn't know how to express it. And I didn't want to get them in trouble. So I wrote poetry. I wrote their stories through my words. And that's how my stories are. I write really deep and raw. I just write from the heart. The next thing I'm going to share with you is the first book that got published in 2017 by Brenda Hammond. It's a collection of 4 books, and I wrote in all 4. But my journey started with this one. Sacred Hearts Rising, Breaking the Silence. And I'm just going to read a little bit of my story to you guys so you can get a little bit of what it was like. In that story, it was the broken porcelain doll. As a little girl, I felt like a broken doll. I felt like I was broken in pieces and nobody wanted to hear me. Nobody wanted to hear the story of Miss Liz, the broken porcelain doll. When I was little, one bright spot for me was seeing my great grandma. We didn't visit her very often, but to me, she was a hero who helped me feel special at a time when I had so much darkness around me. I remember her sharing with me the stories of having her first cup of tea when she immigrated to Canada from Germany during the Hitler years. Her message to me was take time for tea, reflect on where you want to go in life, and set your goals and dreams with a full heart in everything you do. Most of all, she said, enjoy the flavor of your tea as you drink it and take it as a drink of strength to go on. Now I do all of that, she suggested, when I settled in by myself with a cup of tea. I also use my tea time alone to talk to loved ones, like my great grandma, who has passed. I have, I have, I sit down with them in spirit, and I love hosting tea parties to give others a chance to share their stories of strength and inspiration through sharing a cup of tea. At every party, I also share my great grandma's words. It's important to me that people's stories are heard because I know what it's like to be silenced. I was born a reddish blonde, curly haired girl in northern Ontario town named Hearst. I was shy and soft spoken, a delicate child. Now I think of myself back then as a porcelain doll, a girl who should have been handled with care and love. But at the age of 4, my life changed forever with the first crack in my porcelain body, cracking that would soon become the everyday breaking down of a little girl I was. On my 4th birthday, after everyone had gone to bed, my uncle woke me up and said he had another birthday gift for me. Since I was so young at first, the ideal of another present seemed like a good thing. It's hard to express how fast my spirit went out that night. With anger, my uncle grabbed my arm, and I followed him into the bathroom. He stuffed his old dirty hanky in my mouth, making me gag. He whispered in my ear, stay quiet. I started to cry in fear, which made him grab my arm tighter. And he forced me on my hands and knees. He asked, don't you want your present? I wondered what could be in there for me to have. I was still crying and asking to go back to bed, but instead he said it was time for me to become a big girl now. Needless to say, I hated his present. After he raped me, he told me to go back to bed like a good little girl. He sneered, if you say anything, you will be in big, big trouble and everyone will hate you. Those words would stay stuck in my head for many, many years. The next morning, I woke up black and blue, all over and tired to cover the bruises up with a jogging suit. My mother caught me, looked at my clothes from the night before, and accused me of wetting myself. No, I said, but before I could tell her the truth, my uncle rounded the corner and glared at me to silence me. I was punished for wetting myself, which left me confused, and my grandma gave me a huge red pill for a non existent bladder problem from that night on, and for many more years, my uncle would continue to give me what he called his big girl presents. I believe that Mom knew, but drew a blind eye. She wasn't there much for us kids growing up and would be gone for days at a time. Lots of our time was spent with other family and foster homes. One night, my aunt, my mom, and I were sleeping on a mattress on the floor when my uncle came in. When he got on top of me, Mom turned over and looked me in the eyes as if to say, "What do I do?" Doing nothing to stop the abuse from my uncle. She rolled over and pretended to be asleep while he continued. The next morning, my mom looked at me like I was garbage. She said I was smelly and that I should wash. When I was 10, I remember asking my mom, "What would you do if someone was touching my bum?" I was told to stop lying and being crazy. Then I asked her how she would help me, which made her upset and change the subject. I felt like she knew, but she didn't want to hear it. So many years of abuse took place that I felt like the only way this would stop would be if I died. At the age of 12, I was in school, and this young boy who had a crush on me asked if I'd be his girlfriend. I said no. I already had two so called boyfriends. I knew what they did, and I didn't want that anymore. My godfather was my second abuser, and way worse than my uncle ever was. He would wait until my godmother went to work before showing me what a big girl was. He'd lock his sons and his stepsons in the room next to his. Then I was told to sit on the couch so he and I could play a game. I told him I didn't feel well and didn't want to play. I tried to run from the door, but he grabbed me by my arm and dragged me into his bedroom. He told me I was taking the fun out of the game. Tonight I'm going to read my story that's in Sacred Hearts Rising. And then you can see the different stories that I share. But tonight I'm reading the whole story of the porcelain doll to all of you guys out there. I screamed as he pulled me into his room and threw me on the bed. All I wanted to do was go home. I yelled louder, telling him to leave me alone, as the boys in the other room banged on the wall, telling him to leave me alone. He yelled at the boys to shut up, or they'd get what was coming to them. I'll never forget the words he whispered in my ears. Love hurts. When he was finally done, he said that he'll kill me if I ever told the secret. I hated him and his game. I lived in fear for something he did to me. New cracks in my porcelain body every time. He raped me 3 more times when I was forced to go to my godparents' house. When I protested going back there, my mother told that I'd be punished if I didn't go back because I needed to learn religion from them. At an early age, I did, and as I was told, even if I didn't want to. One day at school, I was pulled aside by a teacher to answer a few questions, which resulted in the police and the CAS being called. At the police station, my mom joined me. Privately, she told me I better not be lying or making trouble. But when the police were in the room, she spoke about how I'd been abused. She acted upset. I learned that the 2 men who had shattered my body and spirit would be going to court, and I'd have to face them. 9 years of abuse equals 9 months of prison time for my uncle, who served only 6 for good behavior. My godfather only did 3 weekends, had to pay a fine, and was given a restraining order. I don't understand the legal system. Upon my uncle's release from prison, he was greeted with a big celebration. Seen as a troublemaker, I was left locked at home alone, while everyone else attended it. Why was I being punished for something that wasn't my fault? Wanting to be with my siblings, I went to the party on my own to act like nothing happened. Since no one in my family believed me, my uncle resumed his abuse. This time I got pregnant, and still no one believed me. My baby was stillborn at 5.5 months. I was able to name her, but was to never speak of her again. When I mentioned her, my parents threatened to send me away or lock me up again. That's how they kept the family secrets hidden. At 14 years old, I developed an eating disorder to cope with losing my daughter. When I was 17, I got pregnant again, this time by my boyfriend. My father threatened to have the baby taken from me, or that he'd disown me for having a baby out of wedlock if I didn't get married. On my wedding day, my father's last words to me were, "Where's my $2? Once I get my money, then he can have you." Apparently, that was the agreement with my soon to be husband. I felt like a whore being sent off. I always hated my wedding day because it was full of abuse and disgust instead of joy and excitement. I was married for 16 long years, and the cycle of abuse continued for me physically, sexually, mentally, financially, and emotionally. No matter what happened, no one ever listened. I felt let down by family, friends, and the community. I slowly just shut everyone out. I became someone I no longer knew. I became who they wanted, not a real person, but a doll, a thing to be used and abused. The only good to come out of any of that was my 4 children. I honestly believe I get my strength from them, because of them. I found the courage to get a divorce and to say I needed some help. I got a full time job and found a place to start fresh, trying to be the perfect mom in the end. It proved to be too much. My body shut down and I ended up in the hospital. I had a physical and mental breakdown and needed rest. My younger daughter's godparents offered to help until I was better. During my hospital stay, however, they gave notice to my landlord, moved, moved my belongings to their home, and gave some to my ex husband. When I left the hospital, I had no place to live or raise my kids. I turned to my family for help and was told, "Figure it out on your own." Thinking it was the right choice, I released my children into foster homes I picked for them. As my strength grew, I wanted my children back, but they asked me to leave them where they were. Understanding that it felt like to be not heard and wanting my children to feel like I heard them, I signed over my parental rights to the foster families. It took me 2 months to sign, as it was the hardest decision I would ever make, knowing I've never had my kids again. Every day I regret that decision due to distance, lack of communication, and court rulings not followed by their foster parents and CAS. My relationship with my children has suffered to this day. Every day I also know that in deciding to sign those papers and protect my children, I stopped a cycle of sexual abuse for them. For that I am thankful. For most of my life I was confused and wondered why me. I was the broken doll everyone would use and abuse anytime they wanted, and then say, "Oh, she's crazy, she needs help." To me, they were the ones who needed the help. For many years, I kept the peace and lived with the cracks in myself until I moved away. I realized that I don't need them in my life and I can go on without them. I've been called many names, told, "Let it go to God," or "Forgive him, he's done his time." The latest one I've heard from family members, "I doubt he did any of that to you. You're just a troublemaker." Makes me want to scream. I believe they're don't all sick and don't want to see the damage they did to me. In my 40s, now 50s, I still fear some of my family, which is one of the reasons I avoid going back home. As no one has ever protected me, I have no faith in my family. Due to years of abuse, I suffer from CPTSD, conversion, dissociation, borderline personality, identity, and eating disorders. But I'm no longer the broken porcelain doll. Since my father died, I no longer fear him. I'm finally able to grieve for my lost daughter, and I'm taking other steps to take care of myself. To help me deal with and overcome my past trauma. I started Miss Liz's Tea Parties, events where I invite others to speak and share their stories over a cup of tea. My speakers also give me inspiration and motivation to continue. At these events, I present my guest speakers with the Teabag Story Award, an acknowledgement of their courage in sharing their personal stories. When I help others to have a voice, I grow. I've done a lot of self healing by joining support groups, making friends who support me, and giving myself reasons to move on. Through my tea events, I also speak out and bring awareness to services that need funding. So I'm not only helping myself, but I'm also helping my community. To me, the tea bag is a sign of strength. The longer we steep the bag in hot water, the stronger it becomes in the end, like me. Through my parties, I now have a voice, and I am finally being heard, along with many others who participate. I also have a mental health group on Facebook called Tender Hearts, Loving Arms, as well as Miss Liz's Tea Parties and Sweet Nothings Poems, where I share links, songs, poems, and pictures of my events with the public. By hosting tea events, I am showing my kids it is possible to move forward. I'm also showing myself. In all my work, the steps of my growth slowly being heard, I am becoming the person I always knew I was. I am a fighter and a survivor. I am a big heart, and I want always to be there to help others in need. I hope my story brings you strength, hope, and courage. I know that no matter how much I've been cracked, I stand proud of who I am today. I know that I have to keep my own cup full so that I can help others. I hope this story is a cup of tea from me to you. That is my story in Sacred Hearts Book 1, The Broken Porcelain Doll. I wanted to share that whole story with you guys so you guys could understand what tea really means to me, why I created this platform. I don't consider myself a podcaster. I know it's called podcasting, but I don't consider myself a podcaster. I consider myself a storyteller, consider myself a changemaker, and a host. You coming into my home and being heard. I treat all my guests as guests, not clients, not customers, but guests. That's the difference with my platform. The next book that I wrote in was Sacred Hearts, Finding Your Wings. I'm just going to show you the covers as time is flying. Uh, Finding Your Wings. And in this book, I wrote the double grief, the grief of my children in care and the grief of my child who passed from stillborn. And that's called Shining Through Double Grief, my chapter in that book. In book 3, I wrote about mental health, the hidden gem. And I wrote about all the diagnoses that I live with and understanding mental health. Once we get our diagnosis, we often are not directed into sources and counseling and avenues where we can understand that diagnosis. We're often given a pill or told that this is what you're diagnosed with and you just got to live with it. So I really want to bring awareness to the mental health resources and services out there. It's nice that you're diagnosing us all with these labels, but we got to really start understanding what these labels mean by having stories shared. In book 4, I shared domestic violence. Oh, this is book 3, sorry. This is book 4. Book 4, I wrote domestic violence story of my ex-husband. It was a full circle. And that's what Brenda did, is Brenda brought the book to a full circle. So I got to share different parts of my story in all those 4 books. In book 3, my title was called The Hidden Gem. And in all of a sudden, that hidden gem was found by the unstoppable gem by Charlotte Howard. And in this one, I wrote my story as a butterfly. So all of the abuse was the goop and the cocoon and building up the wings and all of that stuff. So in that book, my story is called Transformation Through the Wings. And all of these books are available on Amazon. And the ones that are not available on Amazon, I will let you know where you can get those as well. But the incredible thing is, all the incredible people I got to meet by sharing my story, these beautiful ladies I got to meet. And many of them, I believe all of them were on Tea Time in season one. So, because our book came out in season one of Tea Time. So you can see all of their personal stories as well, because I got them to share their stories. And then we did a celebration. From there, I went on to Fears and Triumph. This is the same book, it's just one is personalized and the other one is with all of the 50 ladies. But it is the same book, the same stories. It's just I got mine personalized. This book is not on Amazon. This book is only through my website at www.misslizteatimes, or you can reach out to Carol Azam, where she does a lot of collaborations with many, many, many incredible women across the world. Um, in this book, we have 50 ladies. And it was during COVID times. So we shared our stories on how we took our businesses from the community into the virtual land. And that's where Tea Time came. My community events no longer happened because of COVID, because we couldn't be in gatherings and stuff like that. So then Miss Liz went to the virtual land. Um, then after that, we went into the Invisible Soul. And in here, I wrote my story as the ugly duckling, because growing up, I felt like the ugly duckling. I felt like I didn't exist. And I got to meet all these incredible people as well. So writing your story actually opens doors and connections, and it connects you with all of these different individuals. With the Sacred Hearts Rising collection, there was over 63 different authors in there, different stories, abuse, grief, mental health, addictions. So check those books out. If my story doesn't resonate with you, I guarantee that one of those other stories that are in those books, in those anthologies, will resonate with you. Just like Tea Time, I guarantee one Tea Time will resonate with you. Um, I'm not saying all 400 of my Tea Times will resonate with everybody, but I guarantee one will. And that's what writing in anthologies is resonating with one story that feels similar to yours, or gives you that hope to write your story. And that's what I hope I've done, is given people the hope and courage to write their own stories. Then I wrote my testimony in this journal by the Ruby Girl. And as many of you know, I was the Ruby Girl for 2024. Um, and I want to thank Karine Nobbs for giving me that opportunity. Uh, Check out her platform as well. She's doing a lot of incredible work, a lot of ministry work and stuff like that. Um, I'm always grateful for the women and men in my life. Whether we go in different paths or we go in different directions, at that time, you were making a difference in my life. Um, do I still stay connected to some? No, I don't. And it's not because there's hate or vengeance or anything. It's just they were there for the season. They were there for that part in my life, that part of my story. Um, and that's what it's like, right? We all have our seasons. We all have people that come and go, loved ones who pass away, and their story continues in the afterlife. And then I wanted to write my own books. And that's where the T collection came from. So you have T is teaching educational awareness, E is educational, and A is awareness. I wrote them in 3 separate books for one reason. So each of my child could have a book. So when I'm no longer here, my child can say, you know what? T is my oldest, Natalie. E is my son, Nico. A is my youngest, Lisa Marie. And you put them all together and you serve a strong cup of tea. And that's where Ashley is. You see, I always find a way to put my children into my work. I always want to give my kids credit for giving me life, for giving me hope. We've had our bumpy roads and had our struggles, but you know what? We're getting there. We come from dysfunction, we come from abuse, we come from trauma, we come from recovery, addictions. We're getting it. It's a healing journey of life, guys. And in these books, I wrote a kind of like a testimony to my kids. So I'm just going to share. In this one, I was really honored because the person who wrote the foreword in this one was my grade 7 French teacher that I talked about at the beginning of the show. She wrote my foreword for my first one. And I was blessed because she taught 4 generations. She taught my grandma, my great grandma, my mom. No, my grandma, my mom, me, and my children. So she taught 4 generations. And it was an honor to have her part of that book. So I'm always blessed to have Madame McDonald part of my life. She's always going to be a dot connected to me because she's in book 1. I gave a dedication, is what I did for all of my kids. And when you purchase the book, you can see the dedications right in the front. I also made the writing larger because some of you know I'm losing my eyesight. Um, and there's no surgery that can be done. It's genetic, and I will become blind. Um, they say 55, I say 65. I'm stubborn. I'm not going to give in to the doctors, and the doctors know that. And what I've done is in these books is I've created different T's. So you know when you buy a book, you see chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I didn't want to be the same as everybody else. I wanted to be different. So I serve you tea. I serve you different types of tea. And in those teas, I use words. So in the first book, it's all T words. In the second book, it's all E words. And in the A book, it's all A words. Words that resonated with me. And in those books, there's exercises where you have to do the work because I had to do my own work on healing. So you have to do your own work. And all the images that were created in these books, I created them myself. I like to create. That's my creative side that keeps me alive as well. And in the A book, more exercises. And I took you to 3 different countries. I took you to Turkey, England, and Australia. And I gave you a cup of tea recipe. So in Turkey, I gave you the Turkish tea. In England, I gave you the English breakfast tea. And then in the Australian book, I gave you the Billy gum tea. So apparently it's made with the eucalyptus bubblegum tree. So it is a rainbow tree. Yes, it does exist. I did my homework. I did my research. So yeah, and that's where my writing journey. It started at 9, and now I'm 51, and I've written in 10 books. 3 of my own, 2 more coming out, maybe more. I'm working on different workbooks, and I'm working on creating a business where you can buy merchandise and stuff like that as well, showing you different ways of serving tea. It doesn't need to be just a plain old tea with milk and cream. You can have fashion, you can have art, you can have music, you can have writing. Uh, it was never about the beverage. It was always about what can we do? What difference can we make? How can we share? I just really wanted everybody to see that I do different and I get different results. Um, I, I always try to bring my true self to the table. And my true self is a roller coaster. It's not a straight line, guys. My life is not a straight line. It's up, it's down, it's in, it's out. Um, but writing is what saved me. Writing gave me hope, gave me courage. When I didn't have the strength to be strong, writing on the paper gave me strength. Um, a little bit more on tea time, why stories are deeply important to me is because everyone has a writing journal. Everybody has something that they want someone to know about. Tea is the new way of sharing stories. Tea is a new way of bringing awareness to different organizations, services, programs. Tea is a new way of writing. You know, there's no right or wrong way of writing. You just got to start. You just got to put the pen to the paper. And if you think someone's going to not like it, you know what? You get judged either way, guys. So just try it. You know, when I wrote my tea books, I wasn't even going for Amazon bestseller or the ranks or the awards because I wanted to show my kids that you don't need to be a number one bestseller to be somebody. You don't need the rank to be somebody. You just have to show up. You just have to share and get your story out there. You know, so many times I hear people tell me, "Oh, Miss Liz, I want to write my story." Do it. Who's stopping you but yourself? If it's financial reasons, find a publisher that does it for a lower price. Yes, it might not be perfect, but you know what? If you really want your story out there and you really want to write a book, you're going to find a way. That's what I tell my kids all the time. If you want something done, you will find a way. I wanted to write, I wanted my work published. I found a way. You can also find some of my writings in many magazines and articles and sites on all over the globe, all over the net. Uh, I like to jump into different ponds um, to give a feel that it's not just in Canada, right? And that's what I do with Tea Time too. Is I jump into different countries and have different guests because I want to know that it is worldwide. It's not just Canada. It's not just USA. It's Australia. It's Turkey. It's England. It's all over. We all have stories. There's millions and billions of stories out there. Your story matters, and you can make a difference when you start sharing your authentic selves. Whether you want to write a horror story, or you want to write science fiction, or you want to write comedy, or you want to make a movie, it's you expressing yourself. But you got to write it first, right? The screenwriters have to write that story in order to make that movie. So it all goes back to writing. Um, and somebody has to put that pen to the paper, whether it's you or it's somebody else. Somebody's helping you write that story, and that's what writing my story was. Is I got to work with incredible publishers, incredible editors, incredible different authors who gave me tips and bits and Liz, express it this way, say it this way. When I wrote the first book, I was scared. I was only allowed to give so many words, and I gave a whole trash can of words. Um, we were allowed to write 1,500 words, and I believe I sent in almost 10,000. I had enough for my own book, but I just wanted all that garbage out. So again, if anybody would like to read any of the books that I've been in tonight that I've shared on Tea Time, you can get them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstores, Walmart, all of that good stuff. Um, this golden heart is to show you guys that I'm just an everyday woman that's trying to make a difference with tea. I'm not out here for awards or a pat on the back or oh my God, you're so strong. I'm not here for that. I'm here because I just want to show people that people like me, people like you, do make a difference. You don't have to be in first place. I'm the turtle that ran that race. I'm the turtle that shows up. I'm the turtle that finishes the race. When I say I'm going to do something, I do something. When I say I'm not, I'm not. Um, I came back to podcasting. I hate that word podcasting because I don't cast, I serve. But you know what? Maybe I'll invent a new word or something. Uh, but I'm in the podcast category for everybody out there. Um, but my pond is just storytelling. Let's just get the stories out there. Let's just get the teas out there. Let's just make a difference one cup of tea at a time, one story at a time, one adventure at a time. You know, there's so many different adventures that I've had over the last 6 years um, because I am in season 6. Um, will there be a season 7? Who knows? Only the universe knows where Miss Liz is going. Maybe Miss Liz will have her own stage in season 7. We don't know. Put it into the universe and manifest it, and you just never know what may happen and what may come. Um, so I want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 3 p.m., yes, it's a Friday, and yes, my tea times are Tuesdays and Thursdays, but tomorrow at 3 p.m., Nancy Landrum will be here, and she'll be sharing her story and her book about being married and loving it. So that should be an incredible topic that we'll be talking about. And then we have 4 more tea times for August, and then we're going to be jumping into September. So roughly around the 27th, I will be releasing all of my September lineup. So you'll get to meet 18 incredible guests that are coming in September. We have 16 in October and another 16 in November, and I believe we have another 14 in December. We may have more. It depends on how I flow and what I can open, the time frames and stuff like that. But we're going to stick with Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to make a difference. We're going to serve some stories. We're going to serve some organizations, some programs, services, and all that good stuff. And we're going to open up the way we serve tea. I'm putting the hook out there, and I'm putting the voice out there that we can make a difference with a cup of tea. So I want to thank everybody who joined me tonight, who's listening, and who will listen to the replay. And if you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, Miss Liz's Teatimes, go over and check that out. I also have another YouTube channel that will be coming up probably in November. Something's telling me to push that one in November. It is already set up, but I will be on that platform in November doing some stuff. I'm always doing stuff, always trying to bring a creative way of serving tea to my followers, to my supporters, to my listeners. And if you'd like to be a guest on Tea Time and you want your story heard, just reach out and I'll do my best to get you out there. I'm going to close up tonight's Golden Heart Tea with a big thank you to all of my listeners, my supporters, and my collaborators out there who have worked with me for the last 6 years. Thank you so much. To all of the compilers of all the books that I've been in, thank you for giving me that opportunity to share my words in your books. Thank you to my children for knowing that mom is trying and mom is getting there. So thank you. I really want to just thank everybody who takes the time to see where this crazy Miss Liz is going and what she's doing. And yes, I like the word crazy. When I was growing up, I didn't, but now I do, because it means a different thing to me. It's the way we change our perspectives, right? So I'm going to close up tonight's tea time with the song that my son wrote. And you can see all the incredible people that I've worked with in the last 5 years, and some of the collaborators and all that. So if you're looking for guests for your podcast or stuff like that, you can reach out to these guys as well. If you need me to connect you to them as well, I can do that as well. But we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to let you listen and see all of the incredible work, what one cup of tea has made happen in the last 6 years.
I want to share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We can share this performance. Pour a cup, never shut up. Tea is for tragedy and being together. E is for everyone and their equality. A is for being asinine and sometimes up. It's just a cup in time. I like tequila and light, like all of us. Not every moment we can be feeling fine. Pour a cup, never shut up. Come over here, have a moment with me. My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the busy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. I like tequila and lime, like all of us. Not every moment we can be feeling fine. I want to share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We can share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me. Come over here, have a moment with me. My name is Miss Lizzie. some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. I like tequila and lime. Like all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will. Maybe the cup of thrill, we could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me. Come over here, have a moment with me. My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. I like tequila and lime. Like all of us, not every moment